In this video, we're looking at a small outflow creek of a lake. It's a few kilometers from the lake source. On average, it's maybe 7 to 8 feet wide with a depth of mostly under 1 foot, though this run's maybe about 3 feet deep. Most of it's heavily overgrown. It's springtime, the weather is warm, and it's midday right about this point. Let's identify the features of it from overhead first before we go underwater. At the top end is the riffle of shallow water that delivers the current into the run. Near the bottom is a tailout where it shallows up and transitions to the next section. In the middle is the deeper part of the run, which, near the top, has a log sitting cross current. On either side of the run is heavily overgrown brush that covers 2 to 3 feet on either side. Overall, there's a lot of structure in this rather small area. Now let's go underwater with the camera and see if anyone is around. We first see some trout at the deep part of the run, just before the tailout area. One fish, the larger one we will identify as silverback due to its silver marks by its adipose fin, seems to be chasing another trout away from this spot. Then the fish notices us and turns his attention to the camera. The fish, almost seemingly in a casual manner, drifts down towards us to give us a look over. The fish literally bumps lightly the camera. I could feel the bump. Then settles in right beside us, ridiculously close. It keeps touching the camera with its sides, which I'm sure was not an accident. But it is so close that I'm having a difficult time actually trying to see it. Initially, I did not want to move the camera and startle the fish. I wanted to watch it as unobtrusively as possible. I'm waiting for the fish to reappear, and it sort of does. I have to actually back the camera up to try and keep the fish in front of me so I can see it. For the next 30 seconds or more, I try to get right behind the fish in that theoretical blind spot directly behind it. But it really is impossible. The trout continually adjusts its body position so it can see us. If I move left slightly, it moves right. If I go right, it goes left, and so on. It even tilts on a vertical angle to keep us in view. Remember, if you can see the black pupils of the fish's eye, that usually means it's looking at you, or at least can do so. Now it's right next to the camera again. And we can't see it. I back up with my pole and camera because it insists on getting up close right beside me. Getting close is good, but it kinda defeats the purpose of being able to observe things when the trout gets this close. But we now just start to settle in next to each other, and we can just enjoy the close-up of the trout. We can also see those silver marks on the back by the adipose fin, which is why we are calling this one silverback. At this point, I lay the camera on the bottom, similar to how the fish is sitting really, because I need to adjust my chest pack and how I'm standing. The movement I make though above the water suddenly spooks the cutthroat and it shoots off like a blur. Just watch. And there it goes. You can even hear the rush of water as it takes off. After that dust off, I lift the camera up off the bottom and slowly try to get the fish back into the frame of view. I spot it up ahead and it's actually sliding down in the current to find the camera as well. Then we go back to the game of hide and seek as it slips in and out of view. It goes back and forth to each side of the camera. At this point I can't actually see the fish on the camera, but as I'm standing in the water, holding the camera, I look down at my feet and the trout is right behind the camera and right in plain view of my eyes. I almost stepped on it. Needless to say, I had to spook the fish just a little bit so it would go back into the camera field of view. I wish I could have shown that on the camera, how close the fish got to my standing position. But as the fish moves ahead, I scan left and right to see what else might be around, cautiously creeping up again. We find that there are several more fish further up in the run and more in the shade. Some are tough to see in the contrasting light. Some are 6 inches in size, some are 16 inches in size. These size differences aren't necessarily based on the age of the fish. They may be somewhat, but not fully. More so it is based on their life cycle, where they live and how they migrate. None of these fish are sea run or anadromous. They have no access to the ocean. They are either lake-dwelling fish that have moved into the creeks to spawn and or feed, or they are residential river trout. These fish could all be full-grown adults though, despite their size differences. The lake-dwelling fish that only come to the creeks to spawn and feed during the peak times of food availability, and then return to the lakes, they are larger in this case, maybe 16 inches in size. The smaller fish are likely trout that live their lives in the creeks, never visiting the lakes nor having access to the larger food sources there year-round. Some of the smaller fish could also be juveniles of the lake-dwelling fish, but it's tough to tell in these light conditions without really seeing their coloration patterns. The dominant fish, aka silverback, has dropped back to hang with us again and literally has been wiping the lens with his tail. It's back to fully watching us and even nudging us. Again, it is hiding behind the camera, watching us as much as we are watching it. You know, I hate to give a fish a personality as it seems too illogical, but this fish is bold and seemingly curious. What it would do to a baitfish pattern drifted by, I would love to see. Probably strip it to the bare shank. Again, I try to go left and right to stay directly behind the fish, but it won't let me now. It's always having one pupil on me. If I move to the right to get behind it, it goes left, putting the right eye on me. If I go right, it goes left. Always to keep at least one eye on the camera. And this is one reason why sneaking up on a fish thinking it cannot see you is almost a fallacy that makes me want to roll on the floor laughing. They will always see you, as they do not allow themselves to have a blind spot for more than a second. Obviously there are still ways to get that close. If there wasn't, then I'd never get these type of videos, but maybe that's a topic for another video. Simply put though, move slow like a heron. You might be thinking that this fish has been acting aggressive, trying to push the camera away, but I don't think so. Keeping in mind how it has gently slid against the camera, approached with mouth closed, moved with slow purpose. Compare that how it treats another fish of similar size. It has no hesitation to drive away another fish with fast, darting movements. The latter is clear aggression. Get out of my spot now. It's not treating the camera the same way, almost with curiosity and minimal hostility. But then again, it's really tough to read a fish's mind. We've moved a bit further upstream. It is tough to see with the sun reflecting off the suspended particles drifting around, but there are several more fish in the area closer to the woody debris up ahead. Some smaller, but some also better in size. The presence of the camera seems to get them agitated, but not so bad that they flee the area permanently. They dart around, then come back. Maybe they are more agitated with each other. Let's use this time to go over what we may have observed today. First off, as I have shown in other videos, fish will see you almost every time you come near. Unless there's a physical barrier between you and them, or you are far away, fish leave no blind spots. They continually adjust their body position to catch what is going on around them. Really, it's a full 360. Second, I suspect some of these fish are finishing their spawning run. Some are maybe here for the food, but I think some of the aggression we're seeing was driven by the fish pairing up and perhaps bartering over the best spots. But from this we can still deduce where fish like to position themselves, whether finishing their spawn or not. And these fish were still probably thinking about comfort, calories, and cover. In this bright sunny area around midday, the fish were in two identifiable positions. The first area we found some of the fish was in the deeper part of the run. The more water a fish puts between itself and the sun, the more bright light is filtered out. This provides both comfort from the sun as well as cover from predators, as less light makes the trout less visible and harder to reach. The second areas we found fish were in even larger concentrations was along the edges where the overhanging brush created shade and cover from overhead predators, both key areas of the run for fish. Now, more importantly, how to fish it. There's really only one good approach in my mind, casting from the bottom end up into the slot. You aren't going to keep the fish unaware of your presence, as they will see you, but with slow movements you can lull them into a sense of security such that they don't regard you as a threat till it's too late for them. You might have an argument for walking around the shoreline and fishing it from the head end, but that's a last resort in my opinion, as I much prefer hooking fish from a downstream position and fighting them that way if I have a choice. It leads to more positive hookup ratios and gives you a better chance to land the fish. The precise technique to use could vary. An indicator rig might be acceptable, but not my first method to use. The area is quite V-shaped, like a valley, and that means significant changes in depth as you go from bank to bank from center. and the more variable the depth, the less consistent coverage indicator nymphing will offer. My first choice is going to be Euro nymphing. The narrow slot that is formed between all the brush is often easier to cast within Euro nymphing with a bow and arrow style cast. With this technique, I'm also going to be getting deeper faster, which is important in a short run that's less than 10 feet in length. If it wasn't such a bright day and there was some signs of surface activity, I would also be fishing a dry fly from further back, though admittedly, unless your casting skills are up to snuff, placing casts with a dry fly in that narrow region may lead to numerous snags on branches and lost flies. As the fish were in the deeper parts of the run and along the edges under the overhanging brush, those are the lines you want to follow. A deeper slot is somewhat straightforward. Fish a fly that'll get you near the bottom fast, occasionally touching it right down the middle. The overhanging brush on the edges is another matter. When the branches dip into the surface of the water, getting your fly under them is rather difficult, but you can do it by submerging your rod tip. That's why the fish feel safe there. But in most cases, I think fishing as close to the edges as possible without going under them will entice a number of fish. These fish were quite active due to the warm, sunny conditions and would likely move 2 feet for a fly no problem. If this was a cold, dreary day, they would be less willing to move far. But given the warmer conditions and the post-spawn conditions of the fish, it speeds up their activity levels. I would be taking advantage of the warm conditions to make the fish come to you, reduce the risk of losing flies. It's just a smarter way to fish. I hope you enjoyed this video and thank you for watching, and please tune in next time for the next video.